You will now be placed into the conference. You are now muted. This conference is now being recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of the Green Book webinar series. The title of today's topic is The Anatomy of a Multi-Day Online Qual Study and Some Activities that Deliver Rich Human Insights. I'm Bill Camper. I'm here with Ray Fisher in his absolutely stunning office in the beautiful historic Ford valve plant located just outside Detroit, Michigan. Never seen anything quite like it. It's amazing space. Ray is the CEO of the strategic online Qual platform designed for creating engaging B2C and B2B market research studies. You might have seen him at the recent IAEX conference in Atlanta, where AHA was featured as a main exhibit, and Ray led several roundtable discussions there. It was a really great event. Today, we're here to talk about online Qual and how to really develop a truly successful study, and we hope you get a lot out of it. A couple quick housekeeping notes. The webinar is scheduled for an hour with about a 15 to 20-minute Q&A, and I'll be moderating the Q&A. May interject with a few questions as we go along. The chat box, as you can see, is on the left-hand side of your screen, so feel free to ask your questions, and otherwise Ray will answer all the questions, or as many as we can, towards the end of the webinar. So with that, let me pass this on to Ray so he can properly introduce himself. Ray?
Thank you, Bill. Hello, everybody. Broadcasting from wonderful Detroit, sunny, on a beautiful day here. Hope you guys are all having a great day yourselves. As Bill mentioned, we're in Detroit. I'm a Detroit native, born and raised here. Got a little chance to move around in the 80s and 90s. And then got back here in around 2002. Just a little career background stuff. My highlights of my career, I was a Pepsi brand guy for several years in the mid-'80s to mid-'90s, and really got my taste into technology and my full immersion into it during the dot-com boom of the 98-02 era. Unfortunately, I did not cash out huge in that time frame, but I did learn a lot about technology, which led us to where we are today. I started doing moderating focus groups in 2002, and eventually, as we got into the online space, it overtook my life, and I run this company. Don't do any more moderating face-to-face. Occasionally get involved in some online studies, but for the most part, I'm running the AHA company. Okay. We did our first online Qual study in 2005 using some kind of jerry-rigged software, CRM software that worked well as a data collection tool. And then we learned a lot since then. We launched our own proprietary tool in 2007, and then we scrapped that, launched AHA as an independent company in 2012, built on all new technology, of which you'll kind of see today. And again, part of my mission today, I don't really want to sell my platform so much, of course I do, but what I'm going to show you, activities and things that are obviously somewhat unique to our platform, but as you think strategically about the anatomy of a 4-day study, kind of think of these tools and tricks as things you could use on other platforms as well, okay? Maybe different wrappings around them, but same kind of approach, all right? So who we are. We're an asynchronous strategic Qual platform, which means people come in on their convenience, at their convenience, when they can do it on a schedule. So if it's a 4-day study, they're generally required to come in for 30 to 45 minutes each day over the course of the study. We do strategic B2C and B2B market studies. We've got clients all over the world. And we do virtually any language that we don't have, we can quickly convert. And the services we offer the platform, obviously. We do programming, project management, recruiting, and we'll do the consulting as well if you need us to help there. All right? And the array of tools we have are Qual. We're definitely a Qual platform. We do have a lot of quant tools that I'm not really going to touch on today, but rest assured we do have a lot of very interesting things like pipesum, skip logic, etc. And then we'll talk more about projective activities and our social stuff today. So on to the next slide here. So while we're here, what I want to do today is really share my knowledge on how to design more engaging studies. I'm sure some of you are very experienced online Qual people, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that maybe haven't done any or have done very little. And what I want to do again is share what I think is the approach that can work in a lot of cases. And again, what I'm going to show you today isn't one approach. It's just a creative way of executing a multi-day study. All right. I want to also just kind of touch on the way we design these studies really maximizes respondent engagement. The whole idea here is to get them connected to the study, make it great for the moderator, make it great for the client, make it great for the respondent as well. And mixing and matching different types of activities really lend itself to an engaging study. And the other thing we want to do is we want to evolve your online research knowledge and skills so that you've got more in your back pocket when you do talk this game to clients and colleagues. And then ultimately we want to increase your interest in doing more online qual. It's obviously a growing category in the research field, but there's obviously room for more growth. So what we're going to review, I'm going to review best practices, methods, tools, and things for developing a successful online study. I want to talk about mixing up different activities to make it engaging and interesting. And then as we do that, you're also going to see some of what we think of as the next generation of tools to help you go beyond open-ended Q&A. So ultimately, what I want to do is have you walk away with knowledge of the possibilities, best practice approaches, better selling skills. I know you're not all salespeople, but you do have clients, internal clients, external clients, and people that you do need to convince to do certain types of things. We want to help you build the story that helps you sell more online qual, both, again, to clients, internal and external, and then give you more confidence in the methodology itself. So with that said, I want to start off with one thing that I think is extremely important in this whole online qual study field, and this really is the human touch. And, it's real easy to look at the technology and say, okay, here's an online study, people log in, they do the exercise and activities, and then they're done. That works pretty well, but again, what you're striving for is great engagement. One of the challenges in online qual has been, once you've recruited people, to get everyone to perform at a high level and complete the study. A couple of years ago, you used to hear that 50-60% completion rates were okay. Right now, we believe it's 90+. Should be the gold standard, and oftentimes you see studies that 100% of the people who are recruited to the study actually complete everything. And a lot of the tricks to this are things like putting this human touch on things. For instance, when you launch your study, as you see here, this is the beginning or a screen cap from a moderator video. What is awesome is when a moderator comes on, uses their webcam, and actually presents, again, in a recorded fashion, an intro about themselves, who they are, what their job's all about, maybe a little bit about their life, and then also then moving into, hey, here's what we're trying to do today. This is what I need you to do over the course of the study. Next thing that's really awesome is during the first day, this is just a little bit of a quote just pulled out of a study, where the moderator actually will touch on each respondent individually with a personal note, which can only take you 20 minutes or so. People log in, they say something about themselves, they might post a picture of their family. It's a really great opportunity for the moderator to go in and say, hey, Tony, great picture of your family, really excited to have you in the study. So again, it creates this human touch in this world of technology. So they know somebody's really behind the screen, somebody's reading the responses, they're trying to understand who they are as people, and they care. And then another key thing is daily morning notes. We strongly believe, again, to keep people in sync and to maximize participation rates, daily morning notes, good morning, here's what we're doing today. A little encouragement like, hey, great responses so far. And if there are some laggards, which there typically are always a few, you might say, hey, if you fall behind, don't panic, you surely have time to catch up. We appreciate all your responses. And then there's a little bit of a chance there to also say, here's what we're doing today. So again, daily morning notes on top of things. And then over the course of the study, and moderators have different styles in this regard. You've got moderator probes as appropriate. I've seen a range, since we've done thousands of studies, I've seen moderators who don't probe at all because their discussion guides are pretty tight and they feel comfortable they're going to capture all the data. You got moderators that probe just a little bit on the key questions, things that they want to understand better, or maybe their clients prompting them to ask questions. Or you get some that are really super engaged and they may ask, quite a few questions. There is a limit there. You don't want to overpower the respondents. With probes, a couple a day are certainly fair game. Over the course of a study, let's say 4 days, if somebody gets 3, 4, 5 prompts, that's a lot. So that should be perfect. Hopefully, again, your questions are written in the right way that you don't have to dive that much deeper. Okay? So the human touch is important. That's kind of a preface to everything. Let's talk basics about running a great study, then we'll dive into an actual study that I put together to kind of give us a sense of, the kind of tools and tricks you'll use over the course of the 4 days. So the 101 here, you got to have clear objectives. The recruiting piece is critical. How you recruit, situations, that use different sample providers, et cetera. I'll dive into that in a second. You want to be creative. Again, straight Q&A is not going to really be fun for anybody. This is not a survey. You want to also design with the report in mind. So the way you put that study together, you want to understand exactly what you're trying to get out and understand what kind of data and what kind of media and what kind of, sexy bits you get out of it in terms of, video, pictures, collage, etc. Things that will help you tell the story at the end. So on the clear objectives, you definitely want to work with your client on clear objectives. I say in the second point here, stick to the mission. It's not a free-for-all. The best you can, protect your turf in terms of not letting the guide, your activity guide, go to a committee. When it gets into a committee, you end up asking tons of more questions that are really relevant because, again, you can get at a lot of this stuff in either nested questions or in projective techniques. So it doesn't need to be just a free-for-all of let's ask everything we can possibly ever think of in the group. Okay. Next, develop activities that are pragmatic and projective. When I say this, what I mean by pragmatic is there's always going to be client stuff that you got to figure out. They're going to want direct questions about certain things about their product, about their position, about their competition, etc. So there's no way to escape, some of the what I'll call basic blocking and tackling on the pragmatic side. So you have to literally get at, some certain things that they want to know over the course of that study. But then mixing that with projective, you can get a lot deeper, a lot more connected, really dive in and get close to the emotions, thoughts, feelings, and behaviors of your respondents. Okay, on the recruiting side, again, this is super critical. Response rates, again, can be all over the board, but again, if you follow the human touch approach, that's certainly going to help you, but there are different sources of recruiting. A lot of this is driven by budget. Traditional focus group style recruiting, where people are actually calling people and walking through screeners, that is the highest quality and obviously the most expensive way to do it, but it also is the best way to recruit. There's also a lot of sample providers that have kind of evolved out of the quant arena, or people who have seen opportunity to run databases and funnel people over to platforms at a much cheaper rate. Are out there. A lot of them are newer, but some are pretty good. We've tested some of them out. Again, it's a little trickier, a little bit more work than the focus group style recruiting, but again, you can save a lot of money there and still get great data out of your study. Key thing is, how important is the study? Does the client have the budget? Most corporations understand the cost of good recruiting. Sometimes you get in with smaller clients or it's something off the fly, and you've got to be more budget conscious. Hence, you might go to some of those quantitative style recruiters. Make it very clear what is expected of respondents. This needs to be done in the screener. You need to tell them, hey, we're doing 4 days of activities. We are paying you X amount. We are expecting you to put in 30 to 45 to 60 minutes a day on the study. So as long as people know that, you don't want to tell them, hey, we're doing this online study. It's going to be, about this and that, and it's 3 days. And then they come in and they find out it's 5 days, because everything needs to match up as far as what their expectations are and what you've told them they're going to do. And send them accordingly. Don't be cheap. I can give you a couple examples here. 4-day study. I would say if it's lighter in nature, you might be the minimum dollars incentive. If you're working through a traditional style recruiting method, I'd say 100 is the least, but it's probably more like 125. Could be as high as 150 depending on the category, the people being recruited. If they're upscale or more average gen pop consumers, you can get away with maybe 125, but you need to push it. Obviously, sometimes if it's executives or doctors, you're going to be talking probably 250, 300 at least. Okay. So don't skimp on your incentive. You'll lose them. They won't stay as connected. The more you want to pay them real cash money, they're going to be interested in completing the activities in a high-quality fashion. All right, you want to stick to the schedule. Delays are not good. So not having your guide ready, not having the recruit ready to go, you lose respondents over these periods of time. People may have other commitments that suddenly block them out. So if you say we're launching on the 5th of July, launch on the 5th of July. And then finally, on the recruiting side, keep the recruiter involved. You're paying them a lot of money to have them recruit these people. There are tools on platforms that allow you to understand what stage of the process each individual respondent is in. And if people have fallen behind or haven't onboarded for any particular reason, it clearly is a huge benefit to have the recruiter involved in the onboarding process and then nurturing people along if there are laggards. And then finally, creativity. You want to do something different each day. Again, you don't want to just throw a bunch of open-ended questions at people. It gets boring, redundant, again, starts to feel like a survey. Use projective techniques where appropriate and when possible. And if you can, you want to sprinkle in some social activities. So, there are some platforms and some studies that on any platform that can be all social, where people do interact either as a total group or in segments, or they can be one-on-one, for a good portion of them with social components kind of sprinkled in, and I'll show you that today. And the other key thing is you don't want to overload them. Again, your guide can get a lot out of them if you do the right types of things, but you just want to make sure you're not pushing them over the limit of what they're kind of expecting to do. If you're expecting 30 to 45 minutes of work, and you're putting them through, enormous amounts of tasks each day, you're going to lose them, especially if you start super hard on that first day, they're going to bail out. So creativity is key. Keep it interesting. And then finally, design with the report in mind. And what you've got here is online Qual produces a lot of unstructured data. You want to think about the activities, that'll help you tell the story back to your clients. And that is, how do we want images? Do we want video? Do we want some storytelling stuff? Do we want quotes, collage? Obviously, you can pull quotes from any of your open ends, but, again, the other tools you use over the course of the study will give you great, media for your presentation at the end. And then avoid redundancy. Sometimes you go through things and you don't realize you're asking the same thing in different ways. And you'll get respondent pushback when they're like, hey, I just answered that a couple days ago, or I just told you that, a page before this. Redundancy will bug you when you're doing the reporting, and it bugs the respondent, okay? So avoid redundancy. Now finally, as we get into the roadmap of the 4-day anatomy, mix it up. Again, this should not be a survey. So here's a kind of typical way to lay things out. And there's no right or wrong way. There is an amazing amount of things that you can do that are different over the course of the study. But here's just a 4-day, run of show that I'll dive in a little bit deeper as we go. Again, if you've got a concept test and that's all you're doing, obviously it can be a straight, 3 or 4 day dive into positions and concepts. But if you're really trying to understand consumers, maybe it's humanizing a quantitative study, maybe it's a deep dive trying to help you understand, who these people are that might buy products so that your ad agency can develop great ad campaigns. You want to kind of take an approach like this, perhaps. So point number one, or day number one. So look at this as 4 days, and I'll get deeper as to what tactics you'll use over those 4 days. First day, very typically, is a getting to know you. I know a lot of people use this as kind of a standard warm-up, so to speak, but it can be a lot more than warm-up. The second day, understanding the journey. Let's say it's about buying a car or buying running shoes or a baseball bat for your kid. You can dive in that day to get into the pragmatics of the shopping journey. How do they go about it? How do they decide? What do they consider? The third day might be something like, hey, let's talk about the competition now. And again, you can mix and match these in any order you want. Obviously not moving, getting to know you around, but let's say 2 or 3 could flip-flop. But day 3 might be, hey, let's understand the competition, the competitive landscape. Who are we up against? What do consumers and respondents think about these particular brands versus ours? And then finally, day 4, I've often seen it's a great place there to kind of wrap things up and let people really get exposed to, let's say some ideas, positions, concepts, etc., that you might want to expose and get some reaction to. So that's a kind of overview of a 4-day approach. From the respondent standpoint, and I'll get into exactly all these different ideas here in a second, From the respondent standpoint, here's the roadmap. When they log in, again, this is our platform. It's the only one I can actually reference. But you're going to see here, they know exactly what they're going to do. You've got day 1, getting to know you. Day 2, part A. And I broke it into a part A and a part B because I think there's some opportunity to do a couple things here without, again, overloading them. What we've got here is start times and due dates. Everything's very clear to them. They know there's a part A and a part B. They get into day 3, understanding brands and the competition. Part A, I threw a social component in here as a part B because, again, they're great to have as add-ons. Again, keeps things interesting for respondents and usually yields some rich insights for you as well. And then day 4, again, kind of the ideas approach. But again, this is what they'll see. They'll know the roadmap. They'll know when things launch. They'll know when they have to complete things by. They'll have due dates and deliverables and everything else, and they stay on track. All right, getting to know you. Again, I'm not showing the actual activity. I'm just going to talk conceptually about things that you can do in this particular activity that really bring things to life. What you want to do here is you want to start with something broad. You want, again, to humanize these people. You will want to look at this and understand the context of who they are as human beings, life philosophies, what they're about. And again, a great way to do this is with webcam, as you see here. So you can do that webcam video and intro yourself. Your moderator can do that, or you, that says, hey, here's who I am, here's what we're going to be doing, and then flip it over to them. And they turn their webcam on and answer whatever questions you want them to answer, in probably a 90 to 120 second time range. So what you've got here is a great chance to dive in on life philosophies. It's great to know hobbies and interests. And again, not just to know it, but when you're understanding these people over the course of these 4 days and they're sharing their lives with you, they're sharing their thoughts and feelings, it really helps you to know who they are, and it really helps at the end to kind of profile people and maybe take examples of people or create composites of who these people were that were in the study. So hobbies and interests really play into it. Family, what's your family about? Even talking about who your pets and, tell me about your neighborhood and your family culture. This can all be augmented beautifully with pics and video in today's world. So, asking for a couple pics, hey, give me a few pictures of you with your kids or you with your friends or you doing something that's fun, or maybe it's a vacation shot, or if they have any video that they want to show you as well, it's pretty cool. Then, okay, so you got that context. Maybe they spend 10 minutes kind of talking about themselves. The next 10 might be about category experience. So in this case, you might be, getting into, hey, let's talk about snacks, okay? What's your favorite snacks? Why do you like them? What other snacks have you explored over your lifetime, and how have you evolved to, your snacking behaviors today? So dive into the experience, where they shop, how they buy, all those good things. So you got obviously a free hand at whatever you want to ask them there, but to start to get more specific about, what the topic of the study is. Next, this is a really cool thing, is to have them do a tour. And again, this doesn't always apply. If it's something that has nothing to do with your house, maybe you send them on a store trip if it has to be something out and about. But it's awesome to have them take their smartphone. And the beautiful thing about today is, everybody has smartphones. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that wasn't the case, and we were all sending flip phones out at a huge cost to ourselves and our clients. Now everyone has that technology. It's basically free for us to use. So it's great if it's like a CPG product. Let's say it's some beverage study. Let's talk about beer, for instance. So you want to have them take you to the fridge, open the fridge, maybe show you their beer or their beverage philosophies, and narrate this tour for you. What is it, why do you have what you have in the fridge? Why did you buy it? Are there different occasions for it? And they come back with a 1 to 2 minute video that really gives you, again, a great context about what they're about, specific to the category you're trying to understand. Anyway, self-ethnography, if you will. Okay, I think there's a question. I got a question from Michelle here. Would you ever run over 5 to 7 days, but only post new questions every other day? So yes, absolutely. There's total flexibility here. Again, I think the key thing, Michelle, here, and we've had studies that go a year long. You can give breaks. You can do things and come back a week later. You can have them do tasks, keep diaries, etc. over time. So there really is no fixed approach to the length of the study or how you actually set it up. But the key thing there is to make sure that the respondents know what they're required to do. here's the schedule and here's what we're asking you to do. Okay? So that there is day one. And again, you've got tons of flexibility to do whatever you want there, but that's a pretty nice, solid approach to getting to know who these people are. Okay, day two, again, I talked about a journey. So you got lots of options here, and I'm showing you a couple of cool techniques here using some of our technology, and I think other people have some similar. And one could be using a collage, and the other one is the flow chart. But I do want to set up the context that a lot of times if you do a collage or a flow chart's a little bit more involving because they have to think things through, and there's a little more designiness to it, per se. But what you've got here is the ability to ask some questions up front. So you may have to throw a few things out. Hey, tell me about this, tell me about that. Okay, now let's do a symbolic image that describes how you feel about preparing weekday meals for your family. So we've got a collage tool, and again, I'm not trying to sell our collage, but the idea is you've got a projective technique here where you can select images that you present to the respondent that they will then pick from your battery or media library that you create. They drag those onto a canvas, they move those around, they can add words and phrases to those individual images to tell you what they mean or how they feel about those images. And they can, basically have this creative exercise. And again, we talk about engagement. This is simple stuff to do. We've had people over 80 years old recruited to studies doing this stuff without any problem. And it's really engaging. I mean, you've gone from video and pictures on day one and getting to know me and, wow, they really understand me. And now you get into this day two thing where we're talking projective technique. Okay, so we're talking about feelings and how you feel about a process or a product or whatever it might be, and having them actually create, which they love to do. So collage is a big component. Usually ask them a title. Hey, give your title, your collage a title. And then after that, give them a big open end that says, hey, explain your collage and what it means to you and why you selected the images that you did. And you really get rich feedback there. Typically very, very good, meaty, in-depth, smart, insightful responses. Molly, great question here on uploading photos or images. Yeah, they can. There's options. I don't know everyone else's platform. Our platform has a media library where they can pick images that we provide that you select from our library. You can add yours to our library. It can be also additionally, respondents can add images to that carousel, so to speak. And then there is an option on our collage to have it be completely respondent uploaded images, which is great also for a getting to know you exercise. So hopefully I answered that one. And then flowchart here too. Great way to go about. Okay, you wanted to buy a baseball bat for your softball player daughter. What did you do? What was the situation? How did you shop it out? Where did you go? Who did you talk to? You can have them create this journey of how they actually went to buy and how they bought it. And you can ask a lot of open ends around that afterwards. But if you can get a visual depiction of their journey, it's a super cool thing to look at, to understand, to get insight from. And again, it's really useful to clients as well. They find this stuff to be fascinating. So that's a day two, part A. Let's go to a day two, part B. So what I did here, and again, you have to kind of gauge overload, as I mentioned earlier. Storytelling can be pretty deep or it can be pretty short. Think of storytelling. This is what we've got here. We've got a template that really mimics a piece of loose leaf, if you can see that, with a creative font on it. And down the left side you see here is essentially a roadmap. And this roadmap is what you're trying to understand in the story. Because typically every person that might be recruited to a study may not be a great storyteller or a great writer, but a lot of them will be. But if you give them, hey, here's how to write a story, here's what we're looking for, here's what we want you to tease out, and again, it can be fiction or nonfiction, and they've got a little bit of a template or a checklist or roadmap to help them write whatever it is they're going to share. And you would be truly amazed at the creativity of respondents and the depth they'll give you and the completeness of thought that they'll give you around thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So the other thing you can do with this too, you can take this template, this can be, again, doesn't have to be our template, but it could be any other tool out there, and just make it letter to a friend. So maybe it's a quick email to a friend, about how they feel about a different product or the buying process or, again, whatever your situation is that you're presenting to them. So again, I went day two, part A. And day 2, part B. As you see, we're really projective and creative here. And you can sprinkle in your open and closed ends as you need to. Okay. So now we're moving into a day 3. So in day 3, let me go back here. I see a question here from Deborah. How do you make the participation constructive if they had a lot of complaints about the product? How to focus their comments? That's a really good question. Some of that can be in the instruction. Some of that, again, is the recruiting. Are you looking for people who are rejectors, who are acceptors? I mean, if they're rejectors, obviously you want to know about their complaints. So I think the way to really do that is the way you set up your instructions if you want it to be positive. A lot of it you want it to be real. So complaints are okay. You just don't want the big negative person to be, bringing things down, over the course of their 4 days of activity. But again, it's always good context. Let's see here, Eric. There'd be a big ask, are your collage images validated to any attribute associations? Yes, they can be, Eric. That's a good question. They can all be coded by you. You can go with our standard codes. If they're your images, you can code them any way you want. So what you can do is when they're exported, you will know how many images were selected by each respondent. And in total and by segments, you'll know how many times images were selected. You'll know what that image attribute is according to how you labeled it. Okay. Okay. Tima, yes, they can. Again, we've got a library that they'll choose from, or you can allow them to go out to the web and get their own images. So I hope that answered that. Let's see if I got one other one. Yep, I think that covered those. Okay, so on to day 3A. Sorry, what I'm going to do, can you incorporate tasting products? Patricia, yes, you can. You can do home use tests for sure if that's kind of what you're getting at. Yeah, study can be completely restructured around the whole idea of a home use test, which can, be both literal on the product side, where they can use diaries to enter every time they might have tried a particular test soda that might have been shipped. So you've got opportunities there to definitely do like home use test stuff, and then do other projective things over the course of the whatever like the study you design. Good questions. Okay, day 3. So again, just a good example of fun stuff you can do. So this is we were all about understanding brand personalities and mapping with this example. So we gave them 2 tasks here, or I'm proposing 2 tasks. And understanding brand personality, what we've got here is this is a like group sort activity. So it's essentially the collage, okay? These are images that are in the collage carousel. And what the idea here was to create 4 columns around these brands. They want to understand what the Audi brand meant to people visually, symbolically, and the Mercedes, and BMW, and Tesla, okay? So there was a battery of images that they went through, and then they picked them, and they dragged the images that they thought, depicted or best expressed what those brands felt like to them, okay? So you can see here how this individual picked the Audi symbolisms, the Mercedes symbolisms. It looks like they were largely able to attribute even the CEOs of those companies to these individual brands, okay? So they actually went and picked, the CEOs and plopped them accordingly to the brands, and then gave you the images that they felt best symbolized what they felt of those brands, So Tesla, you can see, looks to be very modern. You can see Mercedes has some kind of old school stuff in here. So, I mean, you can quickly start to see some patterns. And imagine when you see, 30, 40, 30 or 40, 50, 60, whatever, of these side by side or in a scrolling fashion, you really can start to see patterns emerge. And again, there is a little quant read on the back end, a Qual study, but it's nice to know who picked what and put it where. Okay, Eric, okay, sample sizes, good question there. Yeah, typically, I would say the range is, 20 on the low side. It's usually 30 to 60. I'd say 40 to 45 respondents. Again, kind of depends on how many segments you have. So if you have, several segments, you might want 12 to 15 people in these segments. If you have 4 segments, let's go for 60 people. Recruit 15 for 12, and you might get 13 or 14 responses in each segment. Hopefully that makes sense. So again, if your budget's tight, you can cut it down to 20. Okay, good question. Marcia Gowan, how many questions a day do you recommend? You say, very, very good question. If you're doing projective stuff, you're not going to want to ask a ton of questions after that. So there's really no set number. It's just kind of a flow thing. And I think the more interesting it is with Q&A, with open ends, closed ends, but also adding in, stimulus and things they get to do, again, like collage or, grouping and sorting, brand personality activities, it makes it a lot more interesting for them. So there's no set number there. What we try to do is, activities that are 30 to 45 minutes of engagement, and that's what we base the incentive on. And honestly, the incentive can, I've heard different ranges, but if you kind of figure over the course of, 4 days, you want them in for 120 minutes, you might be looking at, $1 a minute from an incentive standpoint. So that can get you to 125. And again, if it's a more sophisticated, upscale consumer that has less time to do these things, you might be looking at 150 to 200. Okay, hopefully that helped. All right, so that's the part A on day 3. Now let's go into part B. So part B here, this is a great chance to drop in a social activity. You could do this on day 2 sometimes or day 3. The key thing, you don't want to do it on day 4 as your last day because you want to have interaction over a couple days. What I've got here is a couple of examples here. What I've got is a wishing wall here, which is a sentence completion tool that we have in a social media format. This is a great way to throw out some sentence starters. So what happens is people come in, they'll be able to choose from 3 sentence starters or more. It could be more or less, but typically it's something like, hey, I wish my car would do this, or it makes me really happy when my dealer does that, or I really don't like it when the company does this, the corporation does this. So again, usually being context, those are totally random, but usually give them something aspirational, something kind of pragmatic, happy, and maybe something that makes them not so happy. They post, they don't see anyone's posts until they've posted their own. Then when they come in, they'll see and they can like and comment on everybody's stuff. So here's a little conversation you see kind of scrolling down here. And then you've got the likes and comments kind of called out separately. And again, you encourage people to come back in over the course of a few days in a couple different ways. All right, Monica Z, I think I know you. Do you typically use a 20 to 30 minute projective at the open of the day or the closing question for the day? Very good. You know what? Honestly, a 20 to 30 minute projective would kind of be a whole day. So if you really think it's going to take them that long, I would probably do it second, though. Maybe start off if you have a few open ends and a couple things you want to understand first. Give them 5 to 10 minutes on that stuff, and then 20 to 30 at the back end. So I'd probably go the second half, as I've kind of done here. I've kind of made this part B in all cases. Okay. Hopefully that helps you out, Monica Z. And Molly, can the wishing wall have multiple blanks? We've got that same tool. Molly, I didn't put an actual picture of that, but yeah, you can create sentences or paragraphs with Mad Lib blanks. That's a cool activity too. I did not include that in this one. Kind of stuffed the 4-day here pretty tight. So, but yes, we have that capability, and that is a cool way to do things. Good reference. Okay, day 4. So on day 4, this is, again, it can be anything you want it to be, but we found clients very typically like to do some concept stuff at the end, okay? So it could be video stuff, so it could be ads, it could be, ad sets, it could be logos, words on a page, whatever kind of concept stuff you want to do. So again, if you've got a ton of them, you may want to spread them out over a couple days. So that could be like a part B on day 3 and a part B on day 4. Or day 4 could be the whole show about concepts and positionings. But what you'll do is, you can show those. Most platforms should be able to concept rotate those for you, so there's no order bias there. It's a great way to get a little ranking, a little open-ended stuff on that. So you've got the ability, again, to dive in and understand, how they feel about things. So you can do video, you can do any kind of image stuff, and as you see here, this is obviously a mock-up commercial, or maybe it's a rough edit that they want to test. You can throw competitive stuff in here as well. And then on the, again, concept basis, you can go in and you can have them, review any kind of concepts. This is a kind of cleaned it up and put some Greek copy in here to kind of mask it, but this was a concept that some clients wanted to share and get an understanding. They probably had, I think, 4 or 5 of them. And again, rotated, open-ended ranking question, then diving into a series of, closed-end ranking, and then an open ends after that. How do you feel about this idea? What would you do to make it different, etc. And again, the sky's the limit on that stuff, but whoever your partner is in the online space should be able to help you design your guide. Because again, a lot of you may have done online, but if you're trying a new platform, it certainly is nice to have somebody jump out of the airplane and pull the ripcord with you, so you have a safe landing in your first study or 2. Okay. And then as you get more familiar with different platforms, you get a better understanding of how things work, and people can even migrate into kind of what I'll call a do-it-yourself kind of approach. A couple more questions floating in from Tom C. What do you recommend about when to allow members to see responses of other members? Okay, that's a great question, Tom. What we do, it's an option, but it's almost always used, is that anytime they're posting anything or sharing anything with the group, they clearly have to post their ideas first. And it could be a couple of posts. You can limit, whatever number that is. You can give them a min of 3, let's say, or 1, and they have to post before they can see anyone else's. So it's almost always, I think it's always used that way. So good question. Yeah, it does eliminate bias. So they don't see responses until they share their own ideas. And again, as I mentioned earlier, there are possibilities to share, anything and everything. We're not big on sharing everything with everybody, but we have a tool that would allow any response from any point in the study to be shared with the group or with a segment of people. Okay, next question from Sarah. Do you have the ability to do more quantitative style questions? Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't dive into it too much here. I stayed a little bit more, Sarah, on the Qual side of things. But yeah, we've got open ends. We got single choice, multiple choice, answer ranking, pipe sum. Pipe sum we can do on Qual and Quant, and that's the ability to take any answer that they've given you, if it's open-end or closed-end, and pipe that forward and then go into a deeper line of questioning. And that can be done with, multiple responses. Let's see. Do transcript videos that are uploaded by a respondent? We don't personally transcribe the videos, Margie. What we do on the video side is we've got a partner that does the transcription very cheaply and are way better than we are. So we will connect you directly with them, and you can enjoy the cost savings of that and the convenience of working directly with them. But it's the transcription of videos. Yeah, it's a great question because if you've got a lot of video, there's a lot to look at, and it's a lot easier to read it than to watch the videos. Okay. Derek R., what is the best way to actually do product tests, food, etc.? Okay, that's a great idea. Depends how you want to do it. You've got video to do, to actually show people trying things. We've had clients who ship product to houses and had people prepare meals with it. So you can do it that way. We've had, beverage suppliers or beverage clients who have shipped cases of product to respondents' homes. And again, using video is an awesome way to do that. So they can, grab a family member and actually show them opening the bottle or the can, pouring the product in, tasting it, And we've done it with pet foods and human foods and human beverages and everything else, where we have them go in and maybe even taste test things against each other, And with animals, it's like, you put them on the floor and see where they go and kind of narrate what the action is. So that's one way. There's probably a lot of different ways to do it, but, hopefully that answers that. Margie, do you have a confidentiality agreement that people have to? Yes. As they enter in, Margie, they are presented with what we call terms. And those terms are either, light and breezy, like, hey, this is between you and us, please keep it that way. Or if it's pharma or something like that, there may be actual legal language. And they do have to click I agree before they enter into the study. So hopefully that answers that one. So anyway, so day 4, again, can be anything you want. I showed you 4 days. And again, you can mix and match and do really anything you want to do in any order. There's usually, some kind of feeling as to what they want to do, when they want to do it, or when it should be presented. And again, that should be your provider, in this case, hopefully us, that would help you design what that study looks like. how to fit these tools in to match your objectives. And again, over the first couple studies, our guidance is probably critical. And then after that, you may be pretty much on your own. We've got tons of clients that are do-it-yourself after the first few studies, which saves you a few bucks on programming, et cetera, and project management. So that's the day 4 piece. So we are at 12:47. Let's see here. And you guys funnel any more questions in because we've got some time here, and I am able to kind of scan these as we go. But my final thoughts are, when you put these together, you definitely want to be focused because you know that the client has very tangible questions that they have got to get an answer on, and you can't avoid that. You can't turn everything into a projective exercise. There's got to be some pragmatic stuff in there as well. But there is that element to be creative. I mean, this is kind of an evolving world, and I'd even call it still a brave new world of techniques and approaches. And I won't kid you, a lot of clients have given us a lot of great ideas that we've incorporated in to evolve the platform. So the creativity there is limitless. Hey, use your imagination too. Again, if you take a chance on something and you do kind of a silly activity here or there, 9 times out of 10, it's going to give you something you never expected. And you know what? So what if a little exercise or part of a day is kind of a dud? No big deal. You took a chance on it, you took a risk, and you used your creativity and your brain. Create that human connection with respondents. I explained that earlier. I kind of hit it pretty hard, but that is so important up front, what they're going to do. Connect with them, tell them who you are, make sure your moderator introduces themselves in a real personal way, stay in touch with them each day of the study, and have fun with it because, as you guys know, the possibilities are endless. Let's see here. I've got some questions here. I appreciate you guys firing them in. Oh, good. We got a bunch. Cool. Okay. RG, got that one. Joshua D. Not counting the incentives, what does it cost to do a 4-day study? Say 25 recruited, 20 to participate. Okay, 4-day study, probably, I would say, Joshua, just roughly platform programming, project management, all that good stuff, probably around $3,000. Okay, and we provide a lot of support. It's tough for me to say like what everyone else's pricing is. I'm sure I've got competitors listening to my spiel right now, but again, that'll come in at about $3,000. Yeah, so Mickey, just to give you a little perspective on that, if you go 40 people, 4 activities, you're going to run about $4,000, and there may be some programming and project management depending on what you need. Okay. Sarah, is your discussion transcript approached by question, qual board, or by respondent? It kind of goes more, it can go both ways, actually, Sarah, great question. You can sort by individual questions on the platform in our observe area, or you can go by respondent. So it kind of is a hybrid. So if you want to see all the questions to what is it that you really loved about this product, you can just do a quick filter and it'll show you all the responses to just that question. Or you can go day by day by activity and go through each person in the individual activity, which is obviously how you'll start on day 1, day 2. And then at the end of the study, when everything's in, it's always cool to go through the respondents in their totality, meaning, look at all of, Mary's responses to all 4 activities in sequence in scrolling fashion, with the ability to do some analysis and folderize and, again, probe and all that good stuff. Translate into a concise report. Todd, that is a good question. Todd's asking, how do you translate the creative exercise into a concise report? That is clearly what we're as consultants paid to do, and that's to really interpret things and develop themes and read into things, and there's almost a little psychology involved, a little bit of consulting ease, a little bit of human nature feel to try to understand what things mean. And again, sometimes those words after a collage, let's say, the words, the description about it really help to bring things to life and to essentially tell you the story of what they were trying to convey with the images. So it does help you in a way. It's like, okay, I can understand what this means visually. Maybe somebody looks very unhappy through the course of having to deal with their cable company. And so you've got a lot of, grief-looking and angry faces in the symbolism. which is pretty obvious, but again, then the words behind that should help you to understand what it means even better. And again, if you need coaching on that, we certainly, provide some help and education as to how to look at this stuff and how to analyze. Margie, do you have heat images? Margie, what we do, like on our brand map, we do have heat images. On our brand mapping, perceptual mapping, it's not an actual heat map on that one. What we actually do is create a composite by segment and by total that shows you the average placement of each of the brands or attributes on the perceptual map. Eric, any experience in using the AHA for new product development? Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. What we do there is it's been used tons and tons of times kind of before product development starts. It could be, again, ideation sessions, social activities. You can use Pinboard and Wishing Wall in our newsfeed around idea development by respondents. You can certainly share positioning statements. So it could be a stepped process, Eric, where you show positioning statements, you show ideas, and then you get feedback to it. And then we have a lot of clients who will say, okay, give us a 2-week break. And the respondents know we're coming back in 2 weeks. We come back with ideas that have been refined, and then they test them out that way. And it can be done in a qual quant kind of fashion too. Okay, Frankie, let me get down to Frankie's here. What would you recommend? When would you recommend in focus versus online? It depends. There's appetites. Frankie's question: when would you recommend in-person focus groups versus online focus groups? They both have great roles, and in fact, they work in tandem remarkably well too. Sometimes people really want to see the conversation, which again, think about a focus group. You got 2 hours, let's say, you got 8 people, everyone's going to talk. If it's all average, it'll never be that way, but let's say they're all talking 12 to 15 minutes each. You get an online study, you've got the ability to have them converse with you and emote with you for 2 hours. So you get a lot more depth there. It just depends on what you're trying to do. If you really need structure around things, online's great. It also is great to do homework with online platforms, to have them do collage before they do focus groups, or to have them actually do online or focus groups before or after. Again, it could be, let's do an online study with 50 people, and then let's go pull 16 of them and go do 2 groups in the markets that they might be in. But again, online tends to be more spread out, so it can be market specific, but it tends to be more geographically dispersed. Let's see here. So I would say, so a lot of times you can take your best people right out of the online piece and then do the follow-up groups, or a fabulous tool is to use it, go through 40 people or so, and then do 8 ethnos after. So a good mix and match is great, and there's no doubt face-to-face is not going away. It's a great technique. It just depends. Some of it's client preference. It just depends on the depth you want to get at. And I think you get a lot more depth, when you do online studies versus face-to-face. But again, time and place. Tima, 3K, report writing, presentation. No, that does not. Tima asked, does 3K, does that include the report writing and presentations? Wow, no. This is platform, study design, project management, programming, support, all that good stuff. So now it's the big dollars in this world, as you consultants who are listening in know, it's on the report writing. There's a huge skill to it. It takes a lot of time to do, and it's a very skilled thing. So reports can range. It could be any range. Top lines could be $2,000. Full reports could be 10. Depending on how many people, 10 to 15. And I'm sure we've got people out there that are super skilled and have great reputations and can charge a lot more than 10 or 15 to write a report. Okay, so there's a range to that. Hopefully that helped. Emily, do you have partnerships with foreign language moderators? Yes, we do. So just if you want to write us after, you can certainly do that, and we can figure out what market you're in, and we've got people pretty much in all the key markets out there. Joshua, recruiting costs? No, it does not include recruiting. Recruiting, a couple different ways I mentioned earlier. You can go quant sample. Recruiting can be cheap. It's a little riskier, but you can do pretty good stuff with that. Again, we're identifying some people who are emerging in that field who are really good at helping us get people at lower cost. A few tricks to make that work, stuff we could talk about offline. But let's say on a focus group style recruiting, you're probably looking at a CPR on average of about 125 per person. Let's throw in an incentive of 125, so you're at 250, and you got to cut them a check at the end, and that's about $10 for processing. So you're about 260 in on each person. You go 40 people, your recruiting cost is going to be about 10 grand. Okay. Okay, Laz, do you offer unlimited use subscription, or is it price per project? How much would it cost? Yeah, average price per project for us is it's around $4 grand. I think it's a lie. I think I might have mispronounced that, but it could be $3 to $4 grand for the project cost. Unlimited use, that's something we negotiate with you to figure out what you need. So happy to talk to you about that. We've got a rate card. I'm happy to share it with you if you want to follow up with this offline. And again, my email and phone number is up on the screen right now. Linda, have we done uses? Yes, website testing. Yeah, I wouldn't call us Linda. I'd be misleading you if I said we are a website usability platform. I think there's people out there that do specifically just do that. And then for us, we've done a lot of website usability testing. We've got a concept markup tool that allows people to go in and point and write and circle and X and cross and highlight and do all kinds of things that would say how they interact with the site. So there's a couple ways to do things. Static image presentation, link outs to the actual site. And pricing are there for us. Yeah, no, the $3 grand does not include the recruiting or the moderating. That's something separate. Again, we can talk offline. There's different options. There's top lines. There's just moderating. There's full reports. There's different elements that go into that. But it can range in the very low end for a top line at $2 grand to, again, 10, 12, 15,000 for a full report. Michelle, full service, 30 recruited cost approximately. Okay, Michelle, it's real tough for me to go through the complete numbers on that right with you, but I would say 30 respondents, probably in the 12 to 15 grand range. Okay, 12 to 15 will be right, Michelle. Bill K, final words. Okay, Bill wants me to give final words. We're 12:59. Yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed this. I love talking about this stuff, as you know. Hopefully there's a lot of people on this call right now. My contact information is up in front of you right here. You can find us at ahaonlineresearch.com and reach out through the site. I love to talk study design. We can turn proposals or quotes. I'd call more quotes than proposals. That could be done real quickly, usually same day. If you're in a rush, we can ballpark real quick, but it's not that complicated for us to shoot you numbers on quotes. We love to talk study design. We love to give you the tools to help you sell to your clientele or to sell internally if you're a corporate person. So we're here to help. I think we are pretty much towards the end. Any other questions from anybody else? Bill, do you want to weigh in and let us know if we're done and wrapped up? I guess Bill is feeling shy right now. Anyway, thank you so much. We're at 1 o'clock. I really appreciate you being here. Again, anything we can do to help you out, please reach out, and we'd love to share. Have a great day.
The moderator has ended the conference. Goodbye. Thank you for calling.